October 6, 2025. The Hyundai Meta Plant America outside Savannah, Georgia, buzzed with the promise of a new day. Robots glided along assembly lines, workers readied for their shifts, and the future of electric vehicles seemed to be taking shape. Suddenly, a convoy of black SUVs and law enforcement vehicles stormed the facility. Armed agents from Homeland Security and local police swept in, shouting commands and halting production. Workers froze, confusion and fear spreading as machinery fell silent. Agents secured exits, moved through the plant, and ordered some workers to the ground, others into common areas. Cell phones were confiscated. The sense of security shattered. This was no routine inspection. It was a full-scale raid on one of America's most significant foreign investments. The message was clear: something had gone terribly wrong. American and South Korean employees stood together, stunned as the dream of collaboration turned into a nightmare. The raid didn't just stop production, it upended lives and left everyone wondering what would happen next. As agents led individuals away in handcuffs, the realization set in. This was about more than just a factory. The morning's promise had dissolved into chaos and uncertainty. The partnership that built the plant was now under siege. For those inside, the raid was a moment they would never forget. The world outside would soon learn why it happened. The future of the plant, and its people, hung in the balance. As the dust settled, the question echoed, why target this factory? The answer: immigration law. Prosecutors alleged Hyundai and its subcontractors brought hundreds of South Korean engineers to the US on visitor visas, not work visas. These B1 and B2 visas are for meetings or tourism, not hands-on labor. Undercover agents and whistleblowers claimed the engineers weren't just observing, they were installing robotics and calibrating machinery, essential to launching the plant. Prosecutors called it a scheme to bypass the stricter, slower H-1B and L-1 visa processes. For Hyundai, these experts were vital, transferring proprietary technology and enabling thousands of American jobs. But US law is rigid, and the raid was the result of months of covert investigation. The South Korean engineers, once celebrated, now faced legal charges and the loss of their freedom. Their mission had become their undoing. The line between collaboration and violation had been crossed. The consequences were immediate and severe. News of the raid exploded across headlines in the US and South Korea. In Seoul, shock turned to anger. The government, blindsided, saw the raid as a humiliation and a blow to national pride. South Korean officials demanded answers, arguing Hyundai's investment was a direct response to US policy incentives. Editorials questioned the need for such force, calling it an affront to a trusted ally. The diplomatic fallout was swift. Washington and Seoul now faced a major test of their alliance. What began as a local law enforcement action had become a symbol of friction between two nations. The strong ties between the countries were suddenly under strain. Behind the headlines, real people suffered. The detained engineers, isolated and unable to work, faced a legal maze in a foreign land. Their families in South Korea waited anxiously, financial and emotional stress mounting. American workers at the plant, once close with their South Korean colleagues, now worked in an atmosphere of fear and suspicion. The raid cast a shadow over Savannah's economic hopes, hurting local businesses and morale. The collaborative spirit that built the plant was gone, replaced by uncertainty. The story became a cautionary tale about the human cost of rigid policies. Engineers, families, and co-workers were caught in the crossfire of law, economics, and international politics. The impact rippled far beyond the factory walls. For many, the sense of pride was replaced by fear and doubt. The raid's consequences would linger long after the headlines faded. Ordinary lives had been upended by forces far beyond their control. The raid forced leaders in both capitals to act. The US president, champion of Made in America, now faced backlash for scaring off foreign investors. The White House stressed the importance of the alliance, but insisted all must follow US law. Congress split. Some praised the raid as tough enforcement, others feared it would drive away investment. Georgia's leaders, who had lured Hyundai to the state, worried about the economic fallout. In South Korea, the president condemned the treatment of Hyundai's engineers and demanded diplomatic action. High-level talks began, seeking the engineers' release and assurances against future incidents. Washington's tone softened as diplomatic pressure mounted. Officials spoke of finding a path that respected U.S. law but recognized the needs of high-tech investment. The incident forced a hard conversation about the balance between sovereignty and partnership. Economic ties, trust, and the future of the alliance were all at stake. The world watched as two allies struggled to resolve a crisis of their own making. The outcome would shape future cooperation. The leaders' choices would echo for years. The stakes were higher than a single factory. The alliance itself was on the line. The Hyundai raid exposed a deep conflict in America: strict immigration laws versus the need for skilled foreign workers. The U.S. visa system is slow and outdated, making it hard for companies to bring in essential talent. Some argue strict enforcement is necessary to protect American jobs and the rule of law. Others say the system is broken, stifling innovation and slowing job creation. The Hyundai case became a flashpoint. Was the problem the company or the rules themselves? The company broke the law, but the law itself may be out of step with modern economic realities. The debate is unresolved, forcing Americans to choose between rigid legal frameworks and the flexibility needed to compete globally. The raid was a warning. America's future depends on finding a better balance. The stakes are not just legal, but economic and strategic. The world is watching how the U.S. adapts. The outcome will shape the nation's role in the global economy. The question remains, can America be both secure and competitive? The answer is far from clear. The Hyundai raid made the dilemma impossible to ignore. The need for reform has never been more urgent. The Hyundai raid sent shockwaves through global boardrooms. International companies, once eager to invest in the U.S., now saw new risks: legal, political, and reputational. The aggressive armed enforcement was a game-changer. Visa issues had once meant fines or revoked paperwork. Now they could mean raids and arrests. Companies began rethinking U.S. expansion, auditing their visa practices, and even pausing projects. The cost of doing business in America suddenly included the risk of public crackdowns. The U.S., long seen as stable and predictable, now seemed volatile. The incident forced global firms to factor American politics into every investment decision. The welcome mat for foreign investors looked a lot less inviting. The lesson: investing in America now required caution and contingency plans. The Hyundai raid changed the calculus for multinational corporations. The U.S. reputation as a safe haven was shaken. The world took notice. The immediate crisis faded, but trust was broken. Hyundai paid a massive fine. Most engineers returned home after plea deals. Production resumed, but the relationship with U.S. authorities was now defined by caution. Planned expansions were shelved. Hyundai and other firms looked to Europe and Asia instead. Companies abandoned risky visa practices, opting for slower, more expensive processes. Project delays and costs rose as a result. The Hyundai effect became shorthand for new bureaucratic friction in U.S. business. America's reputation as a reliable partner was tarnished. The raid was a lesson. Political and legal environments matter as much as market size. The trust essential for global partnerships is easy to lose, hard to regain. The ghost of the Georgia raid haunted U.S. investment for years. America remained important, but now viewed with wariness. The long-term impact was a subtle shift in the global economic landscape. The Hyundai raid forced America to confront a core question: can it be both secure and open? The nation's commitment to law and its identity as a land of opportunity collided. The aggressive enforcement upheld the law, but damaged alliances and discouraged investment. The lesson: laws must adapt to global realities. In a world of specialized technology and global supply chains, skilled experts are a necessity, not a threat. America's strength has always come from attracting the best and brightest. The Hyundai raid was a warning. This status is not guaranteed. To remain a global leader, the U.S. must build bridges, not just walls. The challenge is to protect its laws without punishing progress. The future depends on finding the right balance between security and openness.